Buying the wrong type of property in Calgary can cost you tens of thousands of dollars, or worse, leave you with a property that nobody wants. But if you buy the right property, that's how you build wealth, enjoy life, and sell easily down the road. In this video, I'll go over the smartest buys in Calgary so that you don't make any mistakes. Let's get into it. And first up, I think buying in a mature area is always a big win. They're generally in very nice parts of Calgary. You know, they're close to everything, into the inner city. They usually have very nice landscaping, huge trees, usually have back alleys as well, more parking, closer to the top schools, and they hold their value quite well. And they can be good for moving in as they are, or renovating, and even turned into infills. So the mature parts of Calgary are usually a big win, and they don't generally go out of style. Now, when we're talking about mature areas of Calgary, it's a bit easier to pull up the community map here, and the downtown is right in the middle, and the city grew out from the downtown. So the properties that are on the outskirts are all newer developments, and the properties, I would say like in this radius, if you follow my cursor, are more of the mature areas. Now, this is not to say the mature areas are better and the new areas aren't. There are some fantastic brand new areas, and there are some parts of the inner city that are not that great. So it's just a bit of a generalization, but if you are buying in mature areas, there's usually plenty of buyers for those properties, and they are closer to a lot of the amenities. But again, it just depends on your situation. And if you have specific questions about a neighborhood, feel free to reach out. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. And on that note, if you are thinking about buying, selling, relocating, feel free to give me a call. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. If you go to the pinned comment, you can call, text, email. I've got a few guides for you, buyer's guide, seller's guide, and a relocation guide. They're all free for download. And any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out. Next up, let's talk about the different home styles that you can find throughout Calgary, and make sure that you're buying the right property for your needs and for future resale value. And first up, let's talk about bungalows, which you can find throughout Calgary, but more so in the mature areas. So a bungalow, if you're unfamiliar with the different terms, a bungalow is you have the main floor at grade with a basement below it. And they're found all throughout Calgary. And a bungalow is great for a variety of different people. It's good for retirees, downsizers, buyers wanting main floor living or easy suite conversions. Now, one of the great things about bungalows is they typically have a back door where you can go up or down, and it's easy to put a door there and convert the basement into a suited living area. So they're great for families, they're great for investors, and they're great just to rent out as well. And the last major benefit, I think, with a bungalow is they usually have larger lots, and they typically have back alleys as well with double detached garage. So it's usually a wider lot, more space, nice backyards. Now, one of the main disadvantages of a bungalow is that there's not as much separation between like the kitchen, living room, and the bedrooms as there is in a property like a two-story. And another thing about bungalows is that they do have more maintenance. They usually have larger lots and a higher cost per square foot if you're redeveloping them. And next up, let's talk about two-story properties. So throughout Calgary, bungalows and two-stories are the main two types of properties. There are others, but those are the main two. And I would say the two-story is popular for a variety of reasons. I think the best thing about a two-story is there's more separation between the different living areas. So they typically have, you walk into the main level, that will have the living area, dining room, kitchen, entry to the deck. There's usually an upstairs, that's where the bedrooms will be. And most of the time they have a basement as well. So there's just more separation between the living areas compared to a bungalow. And I would say one of the major benefits of a two-story property is that most of them have a double attached garage, whereas a bungalow usually has a double detached garage. You have to go outside into the backyard with a bungalow to get to the garage. But for a two-story property, they're attached to the front of the property. So a two-story property is very common. They're easy to sell. They're not as expensive as bungalows because generally you're building up versus having a wide lot like a bungalow. So they are more affordable. They're easy to sell. But there are some negatives with two-story properties. And the big one for me is they don't generally have very nice basements because they're built up. A bungalow is quite wide and they have very nice basements, easy to rent out. Whereas in a two-story property, unless it's a massive two-story, they generally have poor basements. They're not that livable compared to a bungalow. And the other major disadvantage is they have more stairs. So if you're getting elderly and you want to avoid the stairs, I would probably look at getting into a bungalow instead. Next up, let's talk about split-level properties. Now, these aren't as common as bungalows or two-story properties, but they are found throughout Calgary, especially in the mature parts of the city. So you've got 3, 4, and even 5-level splits, 5 being the most uncommon. but you will find 3 and 4 level splits all over the place. Now, again, these properties, they won't be as desirable as the bungalow or the 2-story, but they do have their benefits, and I think they're great for people who want more separation and more privacy. I can recall my grandma had a 4-level split in Mackenzie Lake, and they're kind of choppy, and there's different levels, obviously, but it adds kind of an interesting element where there's people on every floor. Like, we had 2 basements. The main level had like the kitchen living area, and all the bedrooms were upstairs. So there was plenty of room and separation for like the kids playing around. The adults are in one area. So it just has more separation compared to a bungalow. So they can be good for certain people. I think personally, I would probably shy away from most split level properties, especially 3-level splits, I think are the least desirable of the bunch, but they can be good for a certain person. Next up, let's talk about the bi-level property. Now, this is just simply a raised bungalow. So typically when you walk into a bi-level property, so you'll walk into the house, there's like a foyer area, and there's a wall separating the upstairs and the downstairs. Both have their own separate doors, so they're perfect for renting out. And bungalows and bi-levels have better basements compared to 2-story properties. So again, these are ideal for investors. And the bi-level is great for families as well. I find that the basements are more livable compared to the bungalow, just because they're raised up a little bit. There's more daylight. And in the case of an emergency, you can jump out of the windows a little bit easier in a bi-level compared to a bungalow. So I find they're just a little bit safer. And the next style are townhouses. These will always be popular for a variety of people. For first-time home buyers, downsizers, investors. They can be great. And what I will say about townhouses, if you are a buyer looking at a condo, like a conventional condo or a townhouse, I would always go for the townhouse. Even if it's slightly more expensive, they will hold their value more. There's a bigger buyer pool for a townhouse than a condo. And I think they're just more space. They're more desirable. And lastly, let's talk about the conventional condo. Now, I'm not a big fan of condos, especially in Calgary. I find Calgary is best as a single family market, but that is changing gradually. We are seeing a lot more duplexes and condos. I just find that condos, they don't hold their value that well in Calgary, and the condo fees have really skyrocketed the last few years. So I don't find condos to be fantastic investments for anyone. I would look at getting into a condo if you're just thinking to yourself, well, it's better than rent. Maybe I'll break even. Maybe it goes up slightly. But I wouldn't be expecting the market to skyrocket for condos. Sure, it has happened the last couple of years due to COVID and all that craziness, but we are seeing a bit of a return to balance in the condo market. So for condos, I think they can be great for a variety of reasons. They're great for minimalists. They're good for people who want to work in, say, the Beltline and walk to downtown for work, or walk to 17th Avenue with all the amenities, shops, bars, restaurants. There's little maintenance. There's great amenities in some of the buildings. So they can be great for people who value that. But they do come with some cons, like especially high condo fees. The condo fees in Calgary have really shot up the last few years. It's a bit alarming. So high condo fees, special assessments. Make sure you're buying into a unit that has, a pretty good reserve fund. Always check the condo documents. And next up, I'm going to tackle, should you buy an infill property? And I'm going to tie that into the duplex product type, because they kind of go hand in hand. So what an infill is when you have like a 1960s bungalow in Mount Pleasant, and a developer bulldozes it and makes a duplex in its place. So there are duplex properties throughout Calgary in the inner city, and they can be good investments, and they're typically in pretty desirable areas like, say, Altadore, Mount Pleasant, Killarney, and so on. So I think they can be a great investment if you are buying a duplex in these areas where you see lots of other duplexes. You kind of want to fit the mold for the area. Sometimes you'll see duplexes in areas that are primarily single-family home areas, and I find it's a bit odd. But if you are buying in the inner city, there's plenty of infills, and I think it is a pretty smart investment. A lot of people are priced out of the single-family market, and they're coming to the duplex market, which is still pretty good in Calgary. So I do think they have strong resale value, and they're typically in pretty good mature areas. So they're typically in inner city walkable neighborhoods, which are very desirable, and a lot of them are brand new, which is also quite desirable. So I think these can be a good buy depending on the area that you're looking in. And some of the top areas are like Altadore, the Marda Loop area, Killarney, West Hillhurst, Capitol Hill, Parkdale, all sorts of areas like this throughout the inner city. And next up, should you buy in a lake community in Calgary? This is a no-brainer. These areas are always popular. And there's not that many of these neighborhoods in Calgary. Again, we are severely landlocked, not much water in southern Alberta. There's only one lake community in the northwest, one in the northeast, and there's maybe 5 or 6 in South Calgary. So there's not that many, but they're always going to be popular with families, and they hold their value quite well. Now, if you are interested, I have a video specifically on Calgary's lake communities, which you can find by clicking the link. But if you are buying in these areas, strong resale value, always popular. And if you are thinking about buying one here, I would definitely go for it. I think you will be happy with it. And the next point, homes in areas with top schools. This is a no-brainer. People ask me all the time about different school zones and what are the best schools in Calgary. Families want to live in these areas with top schools, and they're always going to be desirable. It really is as simple as that. And most of the top schools in Calgary, if you just Google it, most of them are on the west side of the city in areas like Cougar Ridge, West Springs, Aspen, Springbank Hill. That whole west side of Calgary is always going to be popular, and most of the best schooling options are there in that part of Calgary. So again, no-brainer. If you want to buy into an area with nice schools, you won't be disappointed. It will always hold their value. And there are top schools throughout the city, not just on the west side, but if you are buying in an area with good schools, it will hold its value for sure. And the next point, homes with scenic views are always a win in Calgary. So the city has skyline views, river valley, mountain views, foothills. There are homes on the lakes, like I already mentioned. So I think this one's a no-brainer. These properties will always hold their value. It's just supply and demand, and there's limited supply of these properties. So I think they will always do well in Calgary. And the next point, let's talk about legal basements or homes that can be easily suited. I think with Calgary, as the prices climb up for everything, it's becoming quite expensive. And buyers are looking for options to have like suited basements to help with the mortgage. So properties like bungalows and bi-levels are popular for this reason, but you can still suite out two-story properties, just not as easy as a bungalow. And I would say areas on the east side of Calgary, like say Rundle, Marlborough, those types of areas, it's even more popular to have suited basements. So I do think these properties will hold their value into the future. And the next point, buying in an area that's considered very walkable and has lots of amenities, I think this is always a good buy. You know, buyers today, they want lifestyle, not just the floor plan. Areas that come to mind like the Beltline, University District, Mission, Bridgeland. These areas are very popular. I personally like to walk everywhere. I think that's a good way to live. You know, walk to the grocery store, walk to the restaurants, the pubs, the gym. So I do think if you're buying in an area that has lots of amenities and is quite walkable, I think it will hold its value quite well. And the last 2 points here regarding parking. Now, Calgary is a city that we can have rotten weather, we can have hail, we can have snow. So if you have a property that has a garage, either an attached or a detached garage, or if you're in a condo and you have underground parking, that will definitely be an advantage for you and help you sell your property in the future versus not having it. So parking is an issue in Calgary, and I would definitely have underground parking or a garage if you can. Now, I've got a similar video to this one, but it's the opposite. It's about what properties you should not buy in Calgary. If you are thinking about making a move, I would watch that video as well, which you can find by clicking the link. And again, if you are thinking about buying, selling, or relocating, I would love to be a resource and help you out. You can reach me by call, text, email, or comment. And if you go to the pinned comment, you can find a buyer's guide, seller's guide, and a relocation guide, all free for download. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you on the next video.